Hello and welcome to Sensei podcast. This is Manos Brilakis discussing with leaders in the field of CTO and complex PCI. Sensei means teacher or master in Japanese. The goal of the Sensei podcast is to help you learn and improve in CTO and complex PCI so that you can become the best that you can be and offer your patients the best possible results. Hello and welcome to Sensei Podcast. It is my great pleasure to introduce our guest today, who is Dr. Sevket Gorgulu, who is a professor of medicine at Biruni University and one of the best CTO operators in Europe and around the world, and a great friend and actually the top enroller in the Progress CTO registry. So Sevket, thank you so much again for joining us today and for discussing about your trip in learning and doing CTO intervention.
I thank you very much. It's a real honor for me to be interviewed by you. Thank you very much, Manos, for this invitation.
Wonderful. So Sevket, give us a little bit of overview. How did things come along for you? How did you go from becoming from an interventional cardiologist to getting an experienced and very profound and very prolific CTO operator?
I can just summarize you my last 4 to 5 years. So I have been doing complex PCI, in a real and scientific way since 2010. And my CTO journey began at 2015. And in 2010, I became an only default radial operator. So I do not touch the groin for any kind of coronary intervention. Even when I'm doing peripheral intervention, I am keen to use the radial artery as much as possible. And 2015, after having done many complex PCIs, I had interest in CTO PCI, and the journey began in 2015. So the thing is, I didn't have any formal, education for that. At that time, I didn't have the opportunity to go somewhere or to work with someone. So there was a guy who mentored me and who showed me how to do a CTO PCI. And the interesting thing is, he was not a medical doctor. So he was a guy from Asahi. He was a company owner from Asahi, and he was selling Asahi products at that time. And from then on, he mentored me and gave me some tips and tricks. And his name is Hüseyin Önver. He is also a good friend of mine. And he is a superb guy. So with him, we went the journey. So in 2000 till 2019, we went together. And in 2019, he said that, and I felt the need to improve a little bit more, So then he guided me to watch the top CTO operators around the world, and he had he graded some CTO operators. And when I began to watch them, I understand what he meant, and I also understand that I am not doing a CTO, I am trying to do a CTO. A CTO operator and doing CTO procedures are different things. And becoming a CTO operator really needs a lot of striving, needs a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of commitment, and it needs tear, blood, sweat. So at 2019, my real journey began actually.
Wonderful. So if I understand correctly, you already were an experienced operator doing complex work using the radial artery, but then the way you learned is getting some advice from the person who helped you learn the basics, even though he wasn't an operator himself, and then by watching other people doing live case, I presume, in meetings or previous recordings. Is that right?
Yeah, this is totally right. And it was in 2019. So I went to a live case. In 2017, 2018, I worked in a live case with Alfredo Galassi. So we had a live case together in CTO Essentials. So and Omar did the CTO Essentials thing at that time, and he took me on board, thanks to him. So in terms of communication, Omar Göktekin, I mean, and he took me on board. So I had the opportunity to know the community better. So I did my first live case in 2017 and 18 with Alfredo Galassi. And at 2019, he recommended me to becoming associated member of the EuroCTO. So that was one of the milestones. So when I became an associated member, I had to come from the UEFA League to the Champions League. So I had to work at least for 2 years and saw some improvement in cases and the number of cases. And when I fulfilled the requirements, they promoted me to become a EuroCTO member. So for 2 years, for 2 to 3 years, I am a EuroCTO member, not a candidate member anymore.
Perfect. Yeah, congratulations. So clearly, it's been a huge, a huge process and a huge learning. But in terms of the practicals, so you worked with some of the best operators, Freddy Galassi, as you said, Gerald Werner, Omer Göktekin, so great operators, got some tips from them. But then how did you get those tips and tricks, so to speak, and apply them to the other cases?
So the thing is, it was in the COVID area, we had a lockdown. Then at that time, and Hussein said to me, look at Kambis Masayaki. It was 2018, okay? Watch him, follow him. He is going to be a great guy, and he is going to be one of the best. So I had it in my mind. So in every of his live cases, I watched his live cases. And in the lockdown, I was at home. So for 8 to 9 hours, I was watching from the beginning all these steps and tricks from the live cases. I have learned a lot from Kambis Masayaki, from that, and from Alex Auran. And I watched the Paul Hissen. I watch all the guys around the world. So someone can ask me, okay, who's the best guy? Okay, I know it already, but it's a secret for me. Okay, so because I know every steps, every moves in which kind of difficulty they are doing what. Okay, so I'm familiar with that. I have also seen your live cases, and of course your book, your CTO book. I'm also grateful and thank you to give me the opportunity to have some help for your book. So I have also learned a lot from your book. So I had some chapters. I separated the chapters from the book, and when I was traveling around proctoring somewhere, I was just reading the books and making some notes and underlying the lines. So I worked very hard. So I had only CTO for my 3 years.
Well, and again, thank you so much, because you provided some excellent images and cases for the latest edition. So, and this was all very practical. So appreciate it very much, your help for making the edition a success. But again, what I'm impressed with is your focus and dedication, right? I mean, this is accessible to everyone. Everyone can go and watch the live cases now. They're posted in many, many outlets around the world. But few people take the time and the effort to actually go systematically through them. So what was the secret? How were you able to focus and do all this?
So I was in a stage, I was unsatisfied with my practice, So I have been a professor for 11 years, and I have been able to manage doing a lot of publications, but I just wanted to be, in the Champions League. And I know who's in the Champions League, and I know what is necessary to be in the Champions League. And I watched the best guys. And the other thing is, I was working in a private university. So in 2020, I left the private university. I began to work as a freelancer. So I have my own time. Thanks to my wife, She is a gynecologist, and she provided me in terms of financial terms. So I didn't have any financial obligations to fulfill. So that was a great backup from my wife. So I thank her also. And then my only thing was complex CTO. Actually, as I began as a peripheral interventionist. Okay, so I have done from 2015 to 2019. My main interest was peripheral intervention. I have been doing carotid intervention from the radial artery. So I have been doing a lot of Lurish cases. I have been doing a lot of SFA cases. But in 2020, I dropped all the peripheral intervention thing, and then had a new road, okay, to go. I had a new challenge for me. I had a new aim and a new scope to go. So that was the change. And I had to be making my own program, So it is difficult if you're working in a hospital. You have some duties to fulfill, and you have some managers to be agreed on. For example, if you want to go on vacation, if you want to go do some cases somewhere, because my cases are all around Turkey and all around the world, and I know that to become an expert, it's the only thing is doing cases. Okay, you have to do at least 150 cases a year to become an expert. And if you go higher with the caseload, the more you become experienced. This is the only way to become an expert. So I had to do a lot of cases, and it's very difficult. There are not many physicians who are referring you to patients. Okay, they referring it to surgeons, or they want to treat it medically, or they want to do it by themselves. So I went to the physicians and helped them doing their cases. So then I had also cases to do. So I'm proctoring around, and that was the main source of my patient load.
Wonderful. So again, that's a very obviously unique way to do it, because many people don't have the opportunity to get more free to do the cases, as you say, and work independently as you have been. Now, how did it go in terms of the planning and the procedures? How do you plan for your cases right now? How long do you look at the angiogram? Have things changed the way you were doing things now versus 5 years ago?
So, of course, when the life cases helped me a lot, as I said. So I want to also mention some other names, just to not to skip them, just to thank them from here. For example, Gerald Werner, and then we have, of course, Khaldun Al-Aswat, and you, and Masaise Yamane, Alex Avran, George Sianos. I watched George Sianos a lot in the Europe CTO live cases, and I watched them again and again. And sometimes I used to watch them 3 or 4 times again, because there are every step has the potential of becoming a problem, and everyone has their own solution to solve it. So that was very important for me. Thanks for this live cases again, and for this guys again. So I don't want to skip anyone. So you mean regarding the preparation? It's so when I have my own case, when I have my own private case, I'm not like doing it like the Japanese way. I don't look at the pictures a lot, because when we have the angiography, we have only a single access. If someone sends you an angiography, they send you an CTO, and you have an RCA CTO, and it's filling from the left side, from the LAD, but you don't have double injection. So you don't know what to do, where to go. So for me, there is no meaning to watch that kind of angiography for hours, because when you go to the procedure and you are doing the double injection, everything changes. Okay, maybe it became a functional CTO. So unfortunately, I don't have any CTs to go beforehand. I don't use CTs. So I go in the cath lab, the important thing is for me, my default strategy is when I'm doing my own cases, when I doing it in my cath lab, when I doing it on my turn, when I doing the puncture, then my default access is radial. So for me, the most important thing is I feel the radial, the distal radial, or the proximal radial. So then I do my double injection, and then at least for five minutes, I discuss it with my colleagues. Okay, what should we do? How should we proceed? What kind of wires should we use? What kind of problems can we have during the procedure? So do we need anything else? So these are things that important. I'm not mentioning before the procedure. You have to know the ejection fraction of the patient. You have to know the creatinine level of the patient. You have to know whether this patient is anemic or not. These are the usual things. So when I go outside, when I am a guest in a university hospital or somewhere else in a government hospital, then they first show me the cases and then say, go in, do the double access, then we do a double injection, and then we discuss it for 5 minutes.
Perfect. So that's actually a pretty good way to do it. So you spend more of the time when you have the dual, and you can be more practical in terms of which devices and which accesses you use. And then during the case, do you feel stressed? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel relaxed? How do you feel when you're doing this often very complex cases that you're doing?
So this is, as you know, is also has something to do with experience. As experience you get, the anxiety and the stress level will go away. It will dissipate. So the more the cases I am doing, the relaxed I am. Nowadays, of course, I am more relaxed because I have seen, the all complications you have listed on the Progress CTO. When I go to the Progress CTO and on the Progress CTO registry and see the complication rates there, I have seen all of them. So I have now the feeling, oh, this is going to be worse. Please slow down. And then sometimes I leave the patient as it is. I do not push the boundaries. So because I have the confidence, I am now more calmer than before, of course.
Sure. So the experience essentially has helped you understand the dangers better, so you're able to prevent them and treat them better if they arrive. Now, are there some cases, either good or bad ones, that you've had that really shaped the way you practice and the way that you do your procedures right now?
You mean my best case or my worst case?
Yeah, either.
So
either or.
I remember this case in 2018. I was still struggling with my CTOs. It was a cabbage patient. So, the fallacy about the cabbage patients. The surgeon says always the pericardium is attached to the myocardium, so there could not be a tamponade if there is some kind of rupture. So I had this rupture, this distal vessel rupture, and the patient was fine at the beginning, and we succeeded with the RCA CTO. We opened it with ADR. But then when the patient was in the ward, it became hypotensive. And I have seen there was a connection to the diagonal, an epicardial connection that I created with the extra support wire, So I had done that before 2-3 times, nothing happened. So I relied on that notion. But the patient became worse hemodynamically, and we didn't know what to do. So then the patient, we discussed it with the surgeon, and the surgeon said, okay, I'm going to open it. He opened it, and there was no blood actually in the pericardium. And it was an awful experience, I had to feel the heart with my bare hands. I was also in the operating room. The surgeon said, see here, you have nothing. But then we understand that there is some kind of an intramural hematoma in the diagonal side of the myocardium. So the patient couldn't come out of the operating room and he died. I was depressed and then didn't understand what happened. And then later on, after 6 or 7, I think, months, I read it in your book. Okay, if the patient has cabbage, this is a dry tamponade, and the patients with cabbage should be treated more carefully than the other patients. So this was my worst experience. So I always remember the worst. Okay, I have saved a lot of cases, and I have managed, and I have treated a lot of complications. The patient went well, but I cannot remember which one is the best for me. But when something goes wrong, if you lose a patient, it never goes out of my mind. So when I now have a cabbage patient, I am very, very careful. And even everything is fine, I'm always nagging on my colleagues, is the patient good? We had some kind of rupture there and it was not going somewhere, so we didn't coil it. And I'm very, very more careful regarding using wires and microcatheters now. So I have done a lot of great cases, but this worst case I cannot forget. There's maybe one case I've done a life case. Yeah, okay, there are actually 3 life cases. I don't know. My life cases are always very difficult. I don't know. Maybe it's by chance. Maybe they are doing it, want me to fail. I don't know. But I have always the worst life cases. It was an Azerbaijan Congress, and it was radial. We had radial problems, and then the patient get an arrest on the table, and I had to resuscitate. And at the same time, I didn't want to lose my old connections. During the resuscitation, I went on with my stand and inflated it and did it carefully. Then we had some norepinephrine, then we had atropine, then we resuscitated, and the patient was okay, and we saved the patient. And after 2 days, he was discharged. So it was one of these cases I can remember. And yeah, I have a lot of these cases. So when you are doing CTO, when you are doing retrograde CTO, then you might be always in trouble. And every step can be problematic, You have to be careful in every step. So therefore, I'm a little bit more, in terms of the patient, I'm a little bit more anxious. So in every step, I want everything to be in control. I don't want to skip any step, any necessary step. So that's how I am proceeding nowadays.
And then how about the challenges? You say that, you have this the steps one by one, being very, very careful. What happens if things don't keep on working out? When do you stop? Do you have any hard rules in terms of contrast, radiation? What makes you decide that, it's enough is enough and it's time to stop?
So nowadays, I am more keen to stop, So when I have used more than 500 milliliter contrast, when the radiation, so the radiation dose is not a thing for me to stop, because I am working maybe around, so far, more than 100 cath labs. So they have different machines, Manos. And they have old machines, they have new machines, and some machines, they don't have even a fluorostone, in some cath labs. So therefore, they don't have the necessary, the knowledge to keep the radiation dose low. But in my cath lab, when I'm working with my friends and when I'm proctoring, I'm always saying the collimator narrowing, okay? The collimation, the shudder should be narrowed, and we should be working at least at 7.5 frame per second in terms of radiation, and then this should be addressed adequately for sure. But when I stop, okay, I begin antegrade, I switch to retrograde, and then I'm doing an ADR attempt, and if this fails, then I stop. So I do not try to make some kind of, fantastic or artistic things after an ADR. I am not going in there again with a stingray or do something else, So I feel when I have done everything, okay, then I thought I have done ADR. I have searched all the septals. I have even go to the epicardial, okay, and the epicardial didn't work. And then I go to ADR, I have done EDR, and then I see I have no perforation anywhere. Okay, Sevket, let's stop. That's when I'm stopping.
Wonderful. Now, when it comes to teaching people, as you said, you've done a lot of proctoring all around the world. When you go to a cath lab, what are you looking for to say this is going to be a good day? Are there some characteristics of the operator, the cath lab organization? What are you looking for a good person to learn doing the procedure in the best way?
Okay, of course. So I was 2 days ago in Egypt, and there was this very philanthropic hospital, and they had a great cath lab with great people. Okay, if you are doing CTO, there is no rush. Okay, no one should push you. And this hospital didn't admit any kind of primary PCIs, So that means they have all the cath labs. We had 3 cath labs at our disposal. So we, at some point, worked at 2 cath labs at the same time. So I'm always looking for this. How are the guys prepared? Do they have the CTO mentality? And to understand that, I am asking 3 questions. Okay, first, do you have double pressure measurement? Can we measure the pressure from the right and from the left at the same time? When they said yes, of course, okay, they know how to deal with the CTO. And the second thing is, do we have the opportunity to measure the ACT? When they say yes, okay. And then the cath lab, do we have the necessary means to do a CTO? What happens when we have complications? We don't rely on the surgeons so much, but do we have surgical backup? Do we have coils? Okay. And how well trained is the cath lab staff when something happens? For example, when I retrieve a CTO wire, do the cath lab nurse know that it should be put in the sleeve? Okay. In the same sleeve. When they say yes, of course, okay, this is a perfect environment to do a CTO. So that's it. But I have worked in very, very bad cath labs, and so I'm accustomed to very, very bad cath labs. So when I have this one, this is like heaven, So okay, so I'm in a good environment, and I'm very happy.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we forget that we take things for granted in many hospitals, but as you said, dual injection, ACT, cover stents, coils, we take it for granted, but may not be available, especially some of the other cath labs around the world. Sevket, how many cases do you think it takes for someone who is starting to do CTO, PCI, to get good at doing it?
The Euro CTO has a 300 cases limit, to become a member of the CTO club. So I think 300 to 500 cases is a good number to label one that he is a CTO operator. So I think between 300 to 500 cases, then the journey begins for that person as a CTO operator. So the journey begins after 300. But if you have done 300, okay, then now you have a lot of way to go, but now you are at the start point. For me, is that you are now starting after 300.
Wonderful. And as you said before, the more you do, the better it gets. So Sevket, you've done, obviously, it's a very active lifestyle in doing a lot of cases around the world. So how do you keep in good shape to do all that? Do you have specific routines? Do you exercise? How do you keep yourself in good shape to do all these complex cases?
Yeah, the funny thing is, no one is talking about that, But when we talk with the CTO, with the top CTO operators in personal and very cozy environments, then they all admit that they are doing some kind of exercise, okay? Passive or active. So, of course, I am doing it also. I'm swimming whenever, whatever, wherever I can. When I have the opportunity, I'm swimming. Okay, sometimes I'm living in Istanbul. I'm doing my cases, go swim. Sometimes I swim 5 times, 7 times a week. But when I'm abroad and wandering around, then at least 3 times a week I take care that I should swim. So my exercise is swimming. So that keeps me fit.
Perfect. And have you had any back issues, like people get lead and back issues? Have you been okay on that respect?
What package?
Any back pain or many
Yeah, yeah,
interventionists get back
yeah,
pain
yeah.
or back issues.
So the reason why I choose swimming is I have a disc hernia, so cervical disc hernia, and I have this cervical disc hernia at least for 15 to 20 years, and but when I'm have low dose of stress and when I am exercising well, I can keep doing my work. So that's the key. So I have to strengthen my muscles to keep going. That's the reason also why I am swimming.
Perfect. And then, how about any favorite book or any favorite movie that you like?
Yeah, so I'm reading a lot of books because I'm wandering around. So I have doing my all leisure activities at the airports. For example, sometimes if I'm using the Istanbul airport, you have to at least make more than 5,000, steps. So I'm wandering around. So I'm always on the move. And when I'm waiting, or when I am in the plane, then I have, of course, books to read. For example, I can give you some examples. The thing is, I'm actually reading 3 to 4 books at the same time. I'm reading maybe 20 pages from that and 20 pages from that, and it goes on like that. My latest book is uh, the brief history of humankind, the Sapiens from Yuval Harari. So I'm a fan of this guy. He's a very intellectual guy. And I have read his all books. I have read Homo Deus and the Sapiens. And then uh, I have some kind of motivational books, also the bestsellers from the businessman's point of view, how to become successful and how to become more manageable with people, something like that. So there is a vast amount of thing to learn, and yeah, as I said, I'm always on the move. I'm always reading. I'm always watching something. So that's how it is working with me.
And which is your any movies that you like?
Yeah. So uh, I'm watching everything. I have a lot of time when I'm on the plane. So when I'm not preparing a presentation or something, I'm always watching something. So I'm a fan of the Netflix. So there are a lot of documentaries. For example, the Formula One documentary is my favorite. And of course, there are also action films. For example, I have seen all the John Wick series. So I'm a fan of Kenny Reeves. And then we have, of course, my latest film, the cinema film was with Tom Cruise, the Top Gun. I have seen that also. I am watching everything that is on Netflix that's in my interest. So in that sense, I nourish myself also.
Wonderful. And then, what are the things that you're most excited about right now? So obviously you create a great practice and you can teach many people, but what is the things that you're excited about the future coming forward now in the near and the far future?
Uh, so I'm working on some new. If you mean regarding my occupation or regarding my personal life.
Anything or both.
Okay. So regarding my occupation, so I'm working some kind of new microcatheters. So I am trying to see how they perform. So I have used almost every microcatheter on the market, and I have used them several times. So I know how they behave, okay? And when there is a new microcatheter or new wire on the market, so I just want to explore the opportunities, the features of the wire. So that's for me exciting. So I'm now testing two to three microcatheters now. So in my personal life, so um, I will begin to have a new hobby. So I am interested in diving, in scuba diving. So that's very interesting for me nowadays. And sometimes I'm singing, when I'm driving. So I'm trying to at least not good as a good singer, but at least not so a bad singer. So I'm singing folk songs, something like that. Uh, so that enjoys me a lot.
Wonderful. Well, again, obviously, multiple interests in multiple areas,
Yeah,
which is, I guess, part of the success that you're keeping open and keeping yourself challenged in many different ways.
yeah.
Um, Sevket, what are you most proud of, both professionally and personally?
Okay. So most that I am proud of is I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of my wife. I'm proud of my children. So the thing is, we had many challenges in terms of every each one of us. So we had challenges with my wife. We overcame them. We become stronger. I had very difficulties with my children, but now we are like in a heaven. With our relationships to each other. So that's the most thing I am proud of. And regarding my occupation that I am proud of is that I have still the energy to go on and teach people and work with people and to be open to learn also from them. Um so that's the thing that I'm very proud of. And my 80 to 90% work is charity work. I'm doing it for free. So that is what I'm proud of. Yeah, from the occupational level, that's what I'm proud of. I am doing it for free.
Well, again, you've had a tremendous impact, I think, in many operators in many countries, and they've learned a lot from you, and that's obviously huge. Creating the footprint and actually helping people in multiple ways to do these procedures and the patients improve as well. Um, what are the things that you look forward down the line? Are you planning to retire anytime soon? You love it? You've been doing this forever. What are your thoughts?
So I think I will do this forever because I will die during when I stand. I don't want to lie down and die. I will die during my standing position. So I think uh, dying at an early age is not a bad thing. And if you don't have any capability to move around, if you are bedridden, so I think that's the most bad thing that can happen to me. So I'm always on the move, and yeah, if you are dying in a young age, for me, it's okay. And for whom it's young age, for what? So that's another debate, of course. But so far, I've fulfilled my obligations. I feel at least regarding me and regarding my family. So therefore, I'm very at peace.
And were you always energetic like this and motivated and pushing the envelope? Or is it more recent or always been like this from your childhood
Yeah,
years?
it was a problem for me. So I had a lot of difficulties. I was born in Germany, and I finished the elementary school in Germany. So at that time, my parents said that it's not going to look good for me. Okay, so they were suspected that I am going to be a gangster there, a gangster there. So they sent me to Turkey. So because in Germany I had a lot of things to do. Okay, even I was in elementary school, I was kicked out several times. and I was always in clash with someone. The police come to knocked our home, so we had a lot of difficulties. So then I learned to channel my energy, So when I was able to channel my energy to something good, then my character built up, that's how I managed it. But my father was right when I was there, because there was no other future for me. I had a lot of trouble there, so he was very wise to sending me to Turkey.
So I love that part, having the energy and channeling into something that you find useful and productive. That's huge, and it's actually interesting. I'm reading this book, Unbroken. It's the same thing for the hero who was a pilot and an Olympian in early ages, that he was having all the trouble as a child doing many things, but then he found running. He became his mission, and he was actually a super successful, went to the Olympics in 1935. So it was impressive how having an avenue can it be. And I think CTO, PCI, and PCI in general can be such an avenue for many people. So Sevket, you've done again so many things, and you've been extremely productive. And actually, I am very thankful for your help again with the book and with the cases. And I'm impressed how you find the time and the energy to do so many things. So if you had to advise people who are starting to do this now, the top few things that you would advise them, what would those be?
Oh, this is a difficult question. So I would add the one thing, it's very important. So I didn't have anyone formally to teach me at that time, but now there are a lot of very talented CTO operators around the world. Okay, they should seek their help. So I'm still seeing some kind of CTO, procedures that are catastrophic, and some colleagues complaining about that, because when I go to Egypt, they are mentioning some colleagues, they are doing it their own way. There is no own way of CTO PCI. Okay, there is an algorithm you guys have written in 2011. You can add something to that, because this algorithm has been tested for many years and has been backed up with a lot of publications. So there is no own way of your CTO PCI. There is an algorithm, man. And if you are not able to adapt that, you should seek help. And the good thing about the CTO operators is all the CTO operators are humble. I haven't seen any CTO operator that is arrogant, that is looking down on people. All the CTO operators, all the good CTO operators I have seen, okay, are very humble people. And everyone at least should seek help from these people. When they want to begin a CTO program, they should at least work with them and should find a way to reach that kind of knowledge. That's my advice now.
Well, again, Sevket, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations again for a phenomenal course, and thanks for teaching all the people around the world. And I'm super excited to get to work with you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Sensei podcast.